Welcome back to the Being Found Show, the best 2 hours in radio for business. Okay, so, there's no doubt things have changed for businesses and how they grow and how they market, and more importantly, how customers find us. The internet has just gone out and basically put the customers in charge. It's given them power. It's made so they can do what they need, what they want, in order to buy what they want, find what they want. And so, Google, if you ask me, Google's doing probably the biggest study in consumer behavior and the longest study in consumer behavior than has ever been done in the history of the world. And Google came out with a term that they call micro moments. So if you're a business or you're running a marketing department, and Google says, hey, there's this new thing out there called micro moments, and micro moments are what your customer is doing to make decisions to buy. Well, if you're running a business or a marketing department, seems like we should understand what that means. After all, if Google's laying it out for us and saying this thing's happening, then we should at least step back and look at it and see what it means. And so I wanted to go over an article that Google wrote in July this month, 2017. It's called Micro Moments Now. And it goes on to say it's the 3 new customer behaviors playing out in Google search data. So keep in mind, Google watches everything people are doing. Now, I got to step back and say that because when I'm talking about being found, it's not always about being found in search. There are other places you need to be found, social, email, all these places. But because Google's watching everything everybody's doing, and because we're all using our phones and our computers to search or solve problems, that means that Google probably has a lot of valuable data so we can understand what consumers are doing. So that's one of the reasons I go to Google resources, either the reporting tools I have access to or their research and papers they've written, in order to get an idea what's going on with customers. So this particular article is Micro Moments Now, 3 new consumer behaviors playing out in Google search data. So these are things that Google has been watching happen. So what's really interesting is Google, in this article, goes on to say that they feel like, or their data is showing that this thing called micro moments is happening more and more and more. They're seeing it grow. And essentially what they mean by micro moment is that a user is now going to the internet or to search in micro moments. So for instance, if I'm hungry, I might go to my phone and say, where's some food near me? Or if I'm on my way to go shoe shopping, I might say, what are the best shoes to buy for chubby feet like mine? Right? So in other words, we're now using the internet and search in our little moments, in those little tiny moments. And so why do we care about this? Well, we need to be there. As businesses, we need to be there in those micro moments. We need to be there when someone's looking for a restaurant near us, etc. So now, these 3 behaviors that Google's laying out in this, I just kind of want to go over them a little bit, and go over this report that Google came out with. But let me also say a few numbers. So one of the things that Google's noticed in this report is that mobile searches for best have grown 80% over the last 2 years. Now, here's what's interesting to me about that. For one, what does this mean? Well, this means that it's not good enough for me to look for shoes. I want to know what the best shoes are. I want to know what the best toothbrush is. If I'm gonna hire a marketing company, I want to know what the best company is. So that's what Google means by this. That putting that term "best" in front of what you're looking for has gone up 80% in the last 2 years. But what else is that telling us? Well, that's telling us something that I've seen for also the last 2 years as I look at the statistics in my clients' websites. As I'm looking at the back end of my clients' websites, and I'm watching the behaviors that are happening with their customers. And frankly, about 2 years ago, the world just seemed to change. I'm not kidding. If you thought you understood marketing, if you thought you understood how to grow a company or revenue, or how to run a website, if you thought you understood any of that, it all changed 2 years ago. It just did. I guess maybe some of the factors that led up to this change was everyone got cell phones in their hands. There were some changes in how cell phone plans worked and things like that, so we all got more of them. Smartphones got smarter. I don't know. There's probably a lot more reasons than that, but the reality is that the world changed. What happened was this micro moment thing. What happened was that we now had this supercomputer in the palm of our hands. We had our cell phones, our iPads, our computers. Heck, my laptop's so small I can walk around with it like it's almost a piece of paper. So we all got these little things in our hands, which allowed us to, frankly, get the answers that we're looking for. And so I've seen that with our clients' websites, is we see this giant shift from people coming to a website using a desktop to now we see them more and more all the time are coming with a mobile device. And you got to think about that. If they're more are using a mobile device, like this says, mobile searches for best have grown 80% in the past 2 years. Well, part of that's just that more of us are using mobile, but we're also using it better and we're using it more often. And so as a business, do we recognize that? And do we recognize that there's a different intention that comes with this new mobile device, right? There's a difference between when I'm on my laptop and I'm thinking about what kind of bicycle rack I want to buy or what kind of shoes I want to buy, versus if I'm in motion, if I'm on my way somewhere or I got some time to kill and I pick up my phone. You see, there's a difference in intention. As a matter of fact, later on, this report goes to point out a large number of people who actually buy, who are more likely to purchase something. I'll just skim down a little bit. It's something like 50% more who are on a smartphone are more likely to purchase immediately. So all that changed. This superpower that now consumers have changed everything. So that's one of the different behaviors that Google is recognizing here, and that's the right here customer. There's a well-advised customer. They know what they're doing. They know what they're looking for. There's a right here customer. And I want to read what Google says about the right here customer. So essentially, Google says, several years ago, marketers were able to deliver the type of relevance by taking explicit cues people gave them. For example, so in other words, marketers were able to know exactly what to market to you because you wrote something extra in the search box. Let me give you an example. For example, if someone wanted to find a sushi restaurant nearby, do you remember doing this? You'd search sushi, and then you'd give your zip code, your city, wherever, or you'd say even near me. So this is saying that's what we used to expect. And now as a marketer or as a business, you might still think that happens. And maybe it still does for some of us, but what they basically say is they've upped the ante. So here's what's happened. The expectations of how a customer wants to search is now they just want to type in sushi. What? They just want to type in sushi, and they want your phone. They want their phone to know that they're looking for sushi to eat nearby, or that they're looking for the times a sushi restaurant might be open. Wait, that doesn't seem fair. Well, it is what it is, and why is that happening? Well, that's happening because the apps that they're using, the mapping app, the phone, the power of the program and the device they're using is getting smarter. So that phone now knows where they're at. See, the laptop may not have known where you were at, or your desktop may not have known exactly where you were at. So you would have to have typed in that you're looking for sushi in your zip code. But now that phone knows where you're at. And it's connected to things like Google Maps, Apple Connect, things like that. So since that phone knows where you're at, you don't have to type that anymore. So now you just have to type sushi, or even better yet, you say sushi. And now, as a consumer, my phone has gone to work to find out where I'm at. So I'm going to be coming up to the end of this segment, and I'll continue on in the next segment. But what we want to be thinking about is, are we there? Are we being found for the right here customer? You see, there are actual physical things you have to have gone and done. You have to have made sure Google and other of the monsters know your address and that information's in right. So it's telling that app where you're at. So it's telling that smartphone where you're at, because when that person puts in sushi, you may have hoped that your page was being found for sushi 96001 zip code. But if you didn't tell the monsters, then it won't know. So we'll be right back. You're listening to the Being Found Show. Thanks so much for listening.